every one of us had the, you know what I'm saying? I didn't really realize until I got to college and I was doing this like on drunk nights. I'd get drunk and come back and I'm like, God forgive me for all the sins I did and all the sins I'm going to commit. And you say that prayer or whatever because you think you're going to go to hell the next morning or whatever like that.
Boy.
That mindset, that carried with me, you know what I'm saying? That carried with me or whatever that I developed that, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, I don't think I ever like was like grew up in like fear of a scary. I knew I didn't want to go to hell. I was scared of hell.
Terrified.
Terrified of hell. Oh, terrified. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Walk with Drew. My name is Drew Mouzon. Today is another special episode that we're shooting, episode 3. I believe last week it was with JD talking about growing up as a church kid. And today I got my best friend in the entire world. We've known each other for, I'm 26.
Known each other since I was
21 years? About?
Yeah, we met, I think I was 6 years old.
Yeah, and I was 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like 20 years. Best friend of 21 years, John Bridges, bro. What's up with you?
Man,
How you doing?
I'm good, man. A little tired. Nice long trip, but it's all
yeah.
good.
You made the trip to be here because I really wanted to have this conversation on camera for this podcast. Just give you guys a little bit of background. So as you can see by the title, we're talking about growing up as not only just church kids, but growing up in private school, Christian school at that. Background is we've had this conversation several times. Right?
Absolutely.
Several times. Just talking about the whole microcosm of just growing up a church kid or growing up in Christian schools and what are we wishing, was different, everything of that nature. And I wanted to have it again and put it on camera. So, but yeah, man, my best friend. This is the first time you've been on any of my content, B. It's the first time you've been on any of my content, B. Like,
hopefully not the last.
Not the last at all. So if you would first, let's talk about just like growing up in church and then growing up in a Christian school. Like, would you say that there's a difference? Like a drastic difference in how those two, do those two relate? Like growing up in a Christian school is a totally different experience than growing up in a church. Do you believe in that statement?
Absolutely. Because one, I guess when you go to church, you're there even for the ones who are in there every day of the week. Right. They're in there for a few hours. They might be in there all day on Sunday or, something like that, but they're in there for a few hours and then they kind of go home. It kind of takes up their free time, and that's about it. But for us, being a student in a Christian school,
it's totally
surrounded
different.
by it all the time.
Right.
All the time.
Right.
And, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but, we never, ever stepped outside of that. Ever.
What you mean when you say that? What do you mean? So just give clarification for the audience.
It was like being at church all the time. I mean, like,
right.
even more so, most of the time we got to go to church, other than Sunday morning, we got to wear some jeans,
right, a
t-shirt, kind of be relaxed. Well, we didn't get to wear jeans. Hold on. Victory wasn't down with the jeans. Yeah. We wore sweatpants or khakis or something like that. But, we got to dress down sometime. But when we were at school, uniforms with the shoes. I remember one time somebody stole my shoes. And I was like, man, somebody stole my shoes. I wore tennis shoes, and they was like, no. Yeah. So,
it's crazy. It was 6 days out of the week, you were in like some type of attire, and I think like that had an effect on me. Like we're going way like deeper than what I wanted to start with, but I'm like, I think that like had an effect on me, because now I don't like wearing baggy clothes because the pants that we had was huge. like huge, and I'm already short,
Yeah.
So it's like I wear skinny jeans now. Like I don't like wearing ties because we're wearing ties every week. You know what I'm saying? So like, it had like a drastic effect on my life. But if you could put your like growing up in school, growing up in a Christian school experience in one word, knowing there's several different words for it, one word, you can't say different.
Enlightening. Now that I look back on it.
Okay.
Now, are you
Hindsight's
saying
2020.
like going through it, or you mean looking back at it now?
Looking back at it.
Yeah, enlightening. Mostly because, well, when I say enlightening, I'm focusing on what we were taught. Because now that I reflect, you know, and we've had this conversation before,
Right.
so, you know, looking back, you know, a lot of the things that we were taught, you know, I was able to take and use, and it got me through certain situations, but at the same time, it kind of changed my perception of, you know, like a lot of the people that, you know, we looked up to, a lot of the ones that we went to for wisdom and things like that. Now that I kind of look back at it, it's like, yeah, I feel you, and I know where you were coming from. I still love you. I don't necessarily agree with you as heavily as I used to.
Yeah,
but,
right.
You know, like definitely enlightening.
Yeah. If I had to pick like a word to describe it, like besides different, man, I can't even, if I could, one word. I would say a melting pot, if that's two words, but one phrase. Man.
Now I'm gonna ask how you mean melting pot, because this was a
Yeah, but I mean in terms of characteristics, characters, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely one train, all black school, entire life. Everybody believed, you know, like it was the foundation of school set on Christianity. But like in terms of melting pot, everybody, like, you know what I'm saying, because you could see it like after the fact, and that's why I say after the fact, a melting pot, because there's so many people that went there that believe differently now, some people that have differing opinions, not just like within the faith, that still believe, but they have different faiths, differing opinions when it comes to politics, when it comes to how to raise children, when it comes to just other intellectual like characteristics. It's just like looking back on it, it's like, man, everybody really was different, but how in it you're just like, man, it's just like
we all
one train, one band, one sound. What in the movie, one band, one sound. It's like it was one band, one sound, and there was no individuality. I would say, individuality in terms of, you know, who, you know, the people who would talk a lot, or the people who was the sports people or whatever, like that individuality, but individuality in terms of thought and expression. So talk a little bit about how growing up in a private Christian school affected your relationship with God growing up, and then how you look at it now.
Hands down, I was fearful, and not the good kind of fear.
Right.
You know, I was scared a lot.
Right.
That was that. I think that's, and we've talked about that a lot. But you know, especially as I reflect, I was always scared. I was always nervous, always anxious. I'm paying for that physically today, you know, because I was always on edge. I was always kind of like, man, like I don't want to mess up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And I felt like that. I remember feeling like that from a very, very young age.
Right.
And then I remember as I got older, I think it was really when I got to like the 7th or the 8th grade, I just said, you know what? I don't care. Like, you know, you know, and not to be rebellious or anything like that, but it was just like, you know, this is just too much. And like, eventually I'm gonna have to let loose. I got to see what's so wrong. Like, why, you know, because I was always cramped up, like literally like anxious, scared. Like, I remember explaining it to somebody before. It's like, I felt like I always had knots in my stomach. And that was a big problem, especially now kind of looking back at it, because we put a lot of pressure on ourselves Because
speak up into the mic for me.
Oh, my fault.
Bring it up a little bit. If you
Yeah.
need
But that better?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, a lot of it was, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves because it was what we were taught to do in a very, from a very young age. And so walking around in fear was really the heaviest thing for me. I don't know. I was always kind of worried about disappointing God, And it's crazy to say it now. And again, like just from a point of reflection, I was always so worried about disappointing God. I knew of grace. I didn't understand grace because
nobody did.
Yeah. I was always, not necessarily tempted. I need that to happen. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily like tempted to do a whole bunch of stuff all the time.
Right.
And I was respectful and things like that. Like, I didn't want to be rude and
nobody wanted to misbehave.
Yeah, but at the same time, like even the little stuff, like if I messed around and, looked or did something or thought something the wrong way, like instantly like just hitting myself on the top of the head, and eventually it just got too much. So I guess at that point it's like I kind of knew that God had me. But at the same time, like I wasn't super committed and super focused on it because it was just like, man, this is just so stressful. Right. And I guess that's the easiest way to explain it. I saw a relationship with God. I saw my relationship with God as stressful, fearful and stress inducing. Like
with me, like what I was telling JD last week was I wasn't even conscious of, I wasn't conscious of my relationship with God. Like I was telling him, like I would see my Facebook posts from old Facebook posts, like when the memories pop up and see like little stuff about God in there. And I'd be like, man, I was conscious of God like that. You know what I'm saying? And looking back on it, because I'm like, I don't remember ever coming home reading my Bible. I don't remember ever coming home and praying. I don't ever remember like the instances that I have now, the moments and the memories that I have now spiritually of those times when I went and prayed about this, or those times where I sat and read the word, or those times like in my Christian walk where you have those instances or those moments of a relationship with God. I think I never had that. I think I was just going through the motions. I think I never like, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my gosh, God, I love you. Like, I just believed in God because it was like the right thing to do. I feel like it. But like, I also feel like subconsciously there was a belief there. Like, I believe that there was a belief there. I believe that the seed was planted. I believe that there was a belief there. But like, as far as like my relationship with God, like, I think it was non-existent until I was 23. Like,
yeah. Like, well, and for me personally, I was taught heavily, faith, just faith. Right. And that was just the thing for me. So like when I met trouble, when controversy came my way, especially when I got to college, like, oh man, controversy came my way when I got to college, and I just wasn't feeling great about myself. The only thing that I knew to do was go to God. But I think the thing that really changed, and I know we're talking about,
yeah, either or, yeah.
But I remember when it changed when my godmother, I was on the phone with her, and she was just like, you're sitting here and you're crying and you're broken up and you upset, and you're just begging God to do this, but where's your belief? Where's your understanding? Like, where's, he already said that he was going to do this, so why are you going crazy like this? Why are you struggling so hard? And that was kind of my wake up moment.
If you want to take it off, you can take it off. If you want to hold it, you don't want to, whatever you want to do.
I might end up holding it in a second. I don't know what's going on. They don't really like me like that, I see. But yeah, I'll never forget that. You know, because she was like, where's your belief? Where's your faith? Where's your understanding? Mm-hmm. And that was the moment where I kind of woke up. I was like, yo, like, God doesn't want me to feel like this. God doesn't want me to feel, all broken down and beat up like this all the time. And the reason why I got to that point was because of that fear, because of that stress, because of that anxiety that, I remember that night like it was yesterday. I can still like almost feel the emotion inside of me. I can still remember it like vividly how I felt that night. Right. And the stress and the pressure that I was able to release as soon as those words came out of my godmother's mouth, it just kind of changed everything for me. But, that was my sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
So, I was 20, 21 when that happened.
Right.
And, this, I feel like that you're right. Like you said, 23 for you. And for me, like it's like we were raised in it and we were around it all the time.
Right.
I feel like that's just, that shouldn't be the case.
Mm-hmm. At all, bro. Like at all. Like, cause I'm just like, you would think if we were raised in that environment 24/7, that the outcome would have been different.
Right.
Not just spiritually, because that's the whole point of why they send you to, why your parents send you to Christian school in the first place, is so that the outcome at the end is different. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like almost nowadays, I feel like it's almost to the point where it's like people send you want to send your kids to a Christian school because of for a foundation. Almost like, oh, I'd raise my kids in the people that barely believe in God. I want to raise my kids in the church. Why you want to raise the kids in the church? You don't go to the church now, but you want. Like, I've seen somebody say it online. Like, you don't go to church, but you want to raise your kids in the church so they have a foundation. But I'm like, what's a foundation if it's not continued? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, if you don't continue in it. So like, but
it all starts at home.
Right.
It all starts at home. So no, I was
oh just, no, yeah. Like, but that was the whole purpose of like going to Christian school. Like the purpose of it, at least I think in my mind, okay, if I'm gonna send my kid to Christian school, like, okay, I believe in Jesus and I want them to have that same foundation, but the outcome, I'm looking for the outcome to be different. So where do you feel like okay, it's two questions. I want to go back to it, but I was going to say first, like, where do you feel like that, like, ran off the road when it came to like our school in terms of the outcome was supposed to be one thing, but it really was the other? Where do you think how we like our administrators and teachers and just the system of it all really went array or really went wrong in terms of that and how the outcome shifted?
That's a good question. That's a really good question.
Because like I think about it, I'm just like, bro, like
I've thought back to it. I guess I've never really thought about where it all went wrong. I will say that pressure, like I said earlier, that pressure to try and live a certain way. It's human nature to want to do things that are taboo,
right,
or considered taboo. And
it's the law too, but
yeah, that's
right.
When somebody tells you no, you can't have this. That's why when people go on diets and stuff like that, they struggle so hard because it's like I got to tell myself no, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, da 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 da. And right. So we were always hearing, no, you shouldn't be doing this, no, you shouldn't do that, no, not this, no, not that, and whereas it was kind of like, yeah, you're letting us know we don't need to do this, but there was a lot of fear that was put behind that. There was a lot of temptation that came with that as well, though.
Right. Like, what's so bad about XYZ?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why a lot of us kind of, went off the way that we went, because it's like we would always hear things are this bad and that bad and blah, 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 blah. But it was almost like they were afraid to be real people with us. I guess that was the thing. That just kind of clicked right there.
It was like afraid to be real people.
They were afraid to be real people. I think one thing that, because I work with kids now.
Right.
One thing that I noticed that they appreciate from me is my authenticity. I don't like to be fake. I don't like to be quiet with them. I don't like to hold back.
Be PC.
I know how to be real and keep it, PG or
right.
However the age
structured or whatever. Yeah,
I don't have to. I can break down something like a real life lesson without being, I don't want to say vulgar or anything. But the lesson doesn't have to be vulgar, or it doesn't have to be something that's out of the way. Like, you can explain things and break things down to people in a way that's like useful to them,
right?
Without being too. I can't even think of what the word is, but like it's, there's nothing wrong with being authentic and real with people. And I think that was the thing. They were acting like they weren't real people. They were putting on this facade of, well, I don't want to say facade because a lot of them live that. A lot of them live that way. Not even a joke. But there was always this view of, oh yeah, you got to be holy. You got to be this. You got to be that. And like, you need to be repentant. You need to be doing that. And I heard that a lot. And, you know, that's cool. But are you always in your Bible? Are you always reading your Bible? Because like the thing is, the way that I see it, you teaching this math class, that's what's up. So that means in between math classes, you grading papers, and then you reading your Bible. Yeah. And like that was
like legit. I don't have no life. Yeah, that's how we thought it. That's how we thought, and that's no bash to nobody, but that's legit the mind frame and the mindset that we had of like our teachers and whatnot, administrators is like y'all save. That's like y'all save. Nah, but I think it also like when you said something about like they were afraid to be real people with us. I think that was because like if they show us their full 100% personality, one, I guess they're not paid to show you that, but at the same time, I think there's a way. I think we've had a few educators. I'm not trying to name names because we ain't naming names. We had a few educators that were capable of being real with us, being people with us that we clung to more than others because of we wanted that sense of realness. But I think they were afraid to do that because you might fall into sin more, or if I let up, you might eventually go do that one day or something like that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I mean, I understand. Yeah. And we had a couple of them that, you know, they didn't mind kind of just being honest and having real conversations. Right. We appreciated that.
Yeah, of course.
You know, because we weren't able to get those answers from really anyone, you know, because like you said, we were in church. Yeah. And then we were in school. So all of the adults that we really interacted with, you know, if you didn't have extended family who was kind of doing their own thing. Yeah, that's your only dose of reality that you would get. And I used to kill for some public school friends. I never had none. I never had none. But talk a little bit about how that like affected your life. So we talked about where it kind of went, where we kind of felt, and we'll continue to touch on that. I feel like where it kind of went array, but talk about how that set you off on the course of your life. Like with me, like when I graduated, I didn't want to go to HBCU. Yeah, because I've been around black people my whole entire life. Yep. I regret that now. Because I wish I would have went to Winston-Salem State. I got in too. I wish I would have went to Winston-Salem State. But that's after the fact. That's down the road, seeing other people that I know that went to HBCUs and the heritage and just the lifestyle of that and the pride or whatever. Because I don't got pride in my university. I'm like, I went to Wingate. Y'all don't know where Wingate's at. Y'all don't know where Wingate's at. I went to Campbell. And I guarantee nobody knows. Yeah, like don't nobody know. I got a homegirl that goes there for pharmacy. I think Keisha. Shout out to Keisha if she ever watches this. But yeah, she went to Wingate. She goes there for pharmacy or doctor or something. I don't know. Yeah, like I didn't take pride in Wingate. You know what I'm saying? I'd probably take pride if I went to Winston-Salem State or A&T or something like that. But I didn't go to a private. I didn't go to an all black school. I didn't go to HBCU. I didn't go to a Christian university. I went to a public university, and I wanted to rebel as soon as I left. You know, I wanted to get the earrings. I got my earrings. I got my ears pierced. I want you to tell that story about how you got yours. But no, I want you to tell that story. But yeah, got my ears pierced. You know, just looked at Wingate as the new opportunity for a whole different Drew that people didn't get to see because I've been behind closed doors and sheltered and my whole life. I don't know what it's like to be around a gay person. I don't know what it's like to be around white people. I don't know what it's like to be around people that believe differently than you, that could challenge your beliefs. So how did that affect your life? How did growing up kind of affect your life in a Christian school? Well, for me, it was a little bit different because I did have, like, when I got to middle school, even before then, I had friends in the neighborhood who went to public school. Right. So I would go out, play ball with them. football, basketball. We race. I remember throwing a baseball. So I did that. And then, of course, when I got to middle school, I played football outside of school. So I did get to interact with a lot of, people from outside of Victory. And that definitely helped a lot. Like, I always felt different, and I stood out from a lot of them. But at the same time, like, it wasn't in the negative way that I kind of felt like it did at first. Like, it made me feel good. Like some of the things that coaches would tell me when I was that young, they were just like, look, like, you're different, and that's okay. And I would feel kind of strange. I was like, why are you saying this to me? But I look back and it makes me feel pretty good. But at the same time, it was just, I don't know. It was strange. Whenever I was around, people who were outside of Victory at first.
Talking about, at first, okay, outside in high school, yeah.
It was a little strange, and then after a while, it was kind of like, all right, like, I appreciate this, I like this, it's different, it's a change of pace, and it helped me to build confidence outside of that same set group of people that I knew, because that was one thing that was crazy, is like, we were literally around the same 20 some odd people
our entire lives, bro. That's like, so crazy.
Every day, those are the people that we interacted with, of course. Like,
and we used to love when new people would come in.
And I'm, oh man, I know that's wild. Like, we would lose it when new people came in. We sit there and be like, oh my gosh, like,
who are you? Who are you coming? What's supposed to
like? They were an alien. What's school like? And it wasn't right. It wasn't even anything that was, from everything. It was a great experience, I'm sure. But I mean, at the same time, it was just like, we gotta calm down. We gotta relax a little bit.
Right.
So being able to experience life outside of Victory a little bit, it helped me out a lot. But at the same time, when I got ready to go to school, when I was in high school. When I was in high school.
I don't know nothing about that life. But I don't know nothing about that life.
I'm gonna tell you what it did. Because of how strict Victory was, not calling out my school singularly, because I know there are a lot of other private schools that are like that. My wife went to a private school that was super strict.
I didn't. Did she? I probably did. I probably don't remember.
Yeah, I'm not gonna call her school out or whatever. But she went to a private school, and she was actually the only black student there. So like single.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there's a couple schools like that. Yeah, we know people like that. Yeah, of course.
So she went to a school like that, and it was super strict as well. But she also went to private school, public school as well. So she was kind of going back and forth between. But I don't know. It was just. I'm
gonna zoom in. Like
I don't really know what else to say other than it was my high school experience was what it was, because in middle school I finally got to step outside of it, and then when I got to high school it was like, all right, we're right back in, and I don't have that outside experience anymore. So it was kind of just like, all right, well, y'all are keeping me from it now. Like, I had an outlet before. Y'all are keeping it from me now. Now I'm going to go get it.
Yeah.
And I wasn't afraid. I was one of those ones it's better to ask forgiveness than permission. My guy. So I kind of went for it. So right. I definitely had a lot of fun. I had a lot of experiences. But I think the reason why I rebelled so heavy early on, like starting, junior year, well, not junior year, but really senior year of high school, I started going crazy. Senior year of high school and then onward into college, it was because like I had a taste and then it got taken away from me. And then you kept telling me it was bad. But all these other people who were doing this are doing well. They're good people. They help their community. They care about their community. Right. They do good. Like they're just good, genuine people. Yeah, they may have some vices. They may have some shortcomings, but
telling you that it was bad or whatever without explaining it to you, but then you're seeing other people, because I was telling JD, I'm like, there's people that live holier than Christians that ain't saved. that they live holier than folk that's not even saved. So it's just like, okay, if this is so bad, and I think that's where the ball drops when it comes to Christian education or when it comes to churching. I think the ball drops is where we don't tell you why this is bad or that it may not even be bad. We don't explain, like I was just saying this upstairs, like we don't explain, okay, if I'm not supposed to have sex before marriage, okay, talk to me about the social repercussions, talk to me about the mental repercussions or whatever, and don't explain it in a way where it's like, oh, if I touch a girl, I'm going to hell. You know what I'm saying? Don't explain it in that way. I'm not saying nobody did, but I'm saying don't explain it in that way. Explain it, yeah. But
it's funny, but it's true.
Yeah, like explain it in a way that's intellectually stimulating to me or whatever. Where it's like, and that's why I think the work that I'm trying to do now when it comes to Christian culture and doing these conversations like this is. What was that?
I think Xander might have dropped to the ground. I'm pretty sure he's okay.
Oh. Okay. We keeping all that in there because they can't hear because this is the audio. So I'm just like, what was that? Nah, but I the work that I'm trying to do now is trying to have these real raw conversations with individuals that grew up in the same context as me and talk about these subjects like dating or relationships from a real perspective to try to show the world that y'all had us messed up with the stereotypes of saying that it's just like this or whatever when it's not like this. And there's people out here that think differently. But when it comes to and allowing the Christian audience to see like, yo, you can talk about sex, but talk about, yo, like why you don't want to be in a relationship. So, yo, we didn't have
people to explain it to us.
Yeah. People didn't have people to explain it to us in a certain type of way, a certain type of dynamic that would say, okay, yeah, I don't want to do this. This is not all the way, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to do this and I know why instead of no. And I think we didn't have the explanation. I think if we had the explanation, things would have went a lot further.
To add to that, a lot of them, especially a lot of the ones that I remember, you know, we would hear things. People would speak. I don't know. I was at church all the time, so I heard.
Yeah, you was at church more than I was.
Yeah, I heard. I would hear, you know, and it was kind of crazy because you would sit here, you would hear these people like adults talking about other adults, and I mean like just slander.
Right.
And it's kind of like, dang, you in church talking about somebody like that? Not necessarily like, you know, like dropping F-bombs and all of that, you know. Not with their language, but just like what they were saying. And a lot of people would kind of judge other people for certain things. So,
Facts.
You know, that was pretty much all it was. It was just kind of like the judgment aspect.
Hypocrisy as well.
Heavy hypocrisy. But with that being said, you know, I would hear stuff like that. I remember hearing stuff like that. I remember sitting in service, like right before church was about to start. I think I was talking to a couple, just a small group of us was kind of talking or whatever. And I was getting ready to walk off, and I heard somebody just saying something that was kind of like off the wall. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there, just like, "Yo, like this is church."
And you don't have that reality, like, yo, these are actually real people. You think everybody's a zombie at this point because of how we were raised, how we were taught. You think everybody's a zombie to think on one train.
Yeah,
that's why I think these conversations like this are like so necessary because it's just like. Everybody thinks Christians are robots, especially Christian millennials. There's so much pressure to be perfect or to be a certain type of way because the world views us a certain type of way. When it's just like, yo, jokers is real just like everybody else. Jokers struggle with urges and temptations and do stuff that people that are not Christians do. So,
I mean, you know, one thing that I actually had a conversation, as a matter of fact, yesterday. But, you know, I guess the biggest concern for a lot of them, at least from what it seems, and even for what it still looks like, the biggest concern is trying to be a role model. And I don't know, for me, like the conversation that I had yesterday was just like, you know, like why would you want to be a role model because the only thing you're doing is playing a role? I'd much rather be a real model and like let you know who I am, understand that I'm not perfect, that I have flaws, that I have issues. And we didn't have that. I feel like if we had that, we wouldn't have put so much pressure on ourselves. There's nothing wrong with having upstanding people to look up to.
Right.
But when the pressure is put on to be like those upstanding people and not fall short, when you're compared to other people, like for instance, what's that award we had? Like
we're not saying that. We keep as less. Out of
my
that.
bad. I'll leave that alone
as
but,
possible. Because I
but,
don't want, even though ain't no smoke gonna come to me because ain't no many people gonna watch that from there. But I know what you're talking about. That award.
Like, you know, we had an award that kind of just like it made you want to act a certain way, and it was kind of like, yo, like that's not cool. Like, you know, because that in itself was like
me and Kano was talking about this.
Yeah, like, you know,
I'm gonna say the award just Christian Character Award.
No, that's not the one
More Than Conquer Award is another award.
Well, yeah,
it was More Than Conquer Award,
and then that President's Cup thing.
Yeah,
yo, I wanted one of them so bad. I was like, yo, like I don't get in trouble like that.
Right,
my grades be straight. Like, what do I have to do? Like,
right,
you know,
that was like the shiniest trophy at the
big Stanley Cup looking thing. I'm like, yo, what is this? It was like the Super Bowl of Victory Awards.
Right.
Like, yo, and I'd be so upset. I'm like, yo, what do I have to do to get one?
Right.
I mean, you know.
But Christian Character Award.
Yeah. And it was kind of like, you know, I feel you on that. I appreciate what you're trying to say, but that's to say that a Christian is supposed to be this way, that way, da 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 da.
According to the standards that you've set.
Yeah. And it's kind of just like, I get what you're trying to. I get what you're trying to get us to do, and what you're trying to encourage us to do by, you know, rewarding us and honoring us, you know, for acting a certain way. But at the same time, again, like all of that pressure, it was really bad, man. I'm telling you, like, and I said it before. I was saying it earlier. You know, like that was a lot of stress. Like I wanted those awards. You know how competitive I am. You know, like I
that's
wanted
when
to win
you said
everything.
Yeah, like when you said it's like leave it nuts. I'm like that kind of took me by surprise because it's like I guess I don't know if that was households has anything to do with that, but I'm like I didn't necessarily like grow up feeling like my stomach was in knots. I think I more so struggled with the social aspect of growing up there than I did anything else. That was the toughest for me, is not trying to get bullied or picked on, or verbally, you know what I'm saying, verbally abused and stuff like that. That's more so what I was concerned about, rather than trying to like walking in fear. Like I don't think, of course, every one of us had the, you know what I'm saying. I didn't really realize until I got to college and I was doing this like on drunk nights. I'd get drunk and come back and I'm like, God forgive me for all the sins I did and all the sins I'm going to commit. And you say that prayer or whatever because you think you're going to go to hell the next morning or whatever like that.
Boy.
That mindset, that carried with me, you know what I'm saying? That carried with me or whatever, that I developed that, you know what I'm saying? But other than that, I don't think I ever like was like grew up in like fear of a scary. I knew I didn't want to go to hell. I was scared of hell. Terrified of hell. Terrified of hell. But yeah, I don't think I ever like struggled with that. So that kind of took me by surprise when you said that.
It's, you know, I guess it was kind of different for everyone. You know, because I know a lot of people now, you know, that we're out, like they don't even struggle. They're kind of just like, whatever, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like I was raised up in that, but I don't care. Like whatever.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, it didn't necessarily bother them. I know for me, it was just one of those things where, it was just, I don't know. There was also a lot of pressure to like kind of like be a leader and stuff like that as well. And then of course that pressure to win. You know, that was.
I guess that for you, because I'm like I don't recall none of that, but different experiences for when you talking about and competitively talking about with like sports or like, just win like with what.
Period. You know, whatever it was to be the best, like, you know, to kind of stand out. That was always a thing for me.
Okay.
You know, that was literally like a theme of life for me. So like, even like when I finally stepped away from sports and it was kind of just, you know, it was still like I switched over to video games. You remember that? Like I had a moment in life where I logged 400 hours in a video game.
What was it?
Like
Jesus.
A couple of months.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that stat. I'm like, bro, how many hours you spent on video games?
400 hours, and I think it was.
That's crazy, bro.
It was pretty bad. So, you know, for me, it was always that pressure to win and always be the best, stand out,
right?
And like that competitive nature, and with that being said, and all of that excess pressure, the pressure to, I guess, try to please God.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
While I'm doing all of that,
right?
You know, that kind of made it even worse. So that's really what kind of messed me up. It was you know, my drive to win, my drive to be the best, but also that I want to make sure that I'm pleasing God at the same time.
So with that, in the dichotomy of being in a Christian school, did you feel like when you got in trouble at the school, did you feel like you weren't pleasing God at that point? Because I just thought about that just now.
I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Like, was the pink slip like God's not pleased with me?
Nah.
Okay.
Nah, I didn't feel that way. When I got in trouble at Victory, I didn't. So the thing was, when I started getting pink slips, is when I really stopped caring. So at that point, it was kind of just
you were a good child.
Yeah, I probably got like a pink slip a year. You know, I got my first pink slip in like 4th grade.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, we all did. Yeah, I remember that.
I got my first one.
That was it.
Grade.
That was that for me. And then like 6th grade, and then that was it.
Yeah, I got my first one in 4th grade, and I think I got maybe like 1 or 2 a year up until I got to like 8th grade or 9th grade or something like that. And then after that, like I was like, you know what? Like this is it, yo. Like this is too much. So I think maybe that was kind of like, that may have been the motive behind it. It's like, oh, well, they feel like, you know, they're not pleasing God. Maybe that'll be that. I don't know. Maybe that was, maybe it wasn't. But for me, it, by that time, when I started to kind of get in trouble, and kind of be, I don't want to say be myself, but kind of step act outside of character. By that time, it was like, I'm not worried about this anymore. Like, you know, y'all tripping.
Right.
y'all tripping. Ain't nobody out here living like this. You know, I remember sitting there thinking that. And, you know, like we had a few kids come to the school from outside, and they would say it. And it's like, we would start to think about that. And it's kind of just like, you know what? Like, they're kind of right. So when I would start hearing those conversations, you know,
that they wouldn't care at all.
Like when I would hear it, it was like, you know what? Like, it makes sense. You know, like people really aren't out here living like this all the time. Like that is a lot of pressure. And there are some who do. There are some who are like heavily convicted by that.
Right.
But not everybody is built that way. I don't know. Like, it just feels like there's so much holdback. Like it's hard to be an authentic and genuine person when you're trying to live up to the standard that we were, you know, trying to live up to.
Right.
And we had to try and live up to that standard every day of the week.
Now, did you struggle? Did you find yourself struggling when you got to college? Like talk about freshman year. Talk about freshman year, because that was the hardest adjustment for me. Like sophomore year was easy, but like breaking away from it completely, it was everything was broken away sophomore year. But like freshman year, talk about like, okay, the transition from 12 years in private school to your first year in public institution. Like I've had conversations with other people that have, you know, went to that, and they talk about they just rebelled, they just did whatever because it's like freedom, taste of freedom for the first time. So just talk about
doing my thing.
Yeah, I know.
I was already doing my thing.
But well, yeah, just like was it a little bit more of like breaking away that you find yourself like, all right, these habits that you built your whole life, like, man, I want to do this, but like I'm used to doing that.
I was I had already started kind of doing my thing beforehand, before we even left Victory. You know, I should probably stop saying that.
I want you to, but
yeah, my bad. I'm gonna stop.
It's already here. What you talking about now?
Yeah, I mean, well, you know,
it is what it is.
Yeah, you know,
it's
like
whatever.
I don't have, you know, and
I don't have
shade
any.
towards them or anything like that.
Of course.
Otherwise,
you know, we wouldn't be doing the conversation if we didn't want to. But I just don't want it to seem like we're trying to attack you.
Absolutely not.
If it come off like that, then I mean, it is what it is. But
yeah, no, I mean, and I do want to say that, like, you know, me going through that school for as long as I did, like, I appreciate the entire, you know, I appreciate all of it because, you know, at the end of the day, the foundation of, I don't want to,
and we talked about
seed
this.
was there.
Right. Yeah,
like,
yeah.
You know, regardless of how it was, regardless of how I received it, like, it was there. Like, there was always this will, this drive, this this hold for God, like, and that was all it was. So, you know, like, never to down it. The way that, you know, it kind of came off versus what I'm sure was intended was it was a bit off-putting. And that is a part of the reason why, you know,
Facts.
in high school, you know, I started to kind of step out, do my own thing, you know. And then when I got to college, it was kind of just like, all right, well, I'm outside of my mama's house. I'm going to go have a good time. And I had a good time. I had a good time. And, you know, but the thing was, and I mean, God knows my heart. My freshman year, it was kind of just like, it's like I knew he was there. I would still say my little prayer, you know, like whenever I kind of do my thing or whatever. But like at the same time, it was kind of just like it was an afterthought. It was like I'm not finna stress about this.
Right.
Not that I was trying to rebel against anything that I was doing. It was kind of like, you know, like I don't have to sit here and listen to this no more. I don't have to feel all of this extra condemnation. I can try this out and kind of go for it.
Right.
And, you know, so my freshman year, I had a good old time. My sophomore year, I kind of calmed down a little bit and then shifted. And as time, so after my freshman year, it kind of was like, all right, I had my fun. I'm good. Sophomore year, I was pretty good or whatever.
It went up for me.
Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I still had good times. I just kind of chilled out.
Yeah,
like freshman year, I was like,
it went up for me, bro. Like freshman year, like I was chilling. Like I don't think I went to any parties. I think I was inside the entire time. I still didn't read my Bible or pray or do anything like that. But I think I was still like well behaved, quote unquote, freshman year. And then sophomore year, it was like, okay, like, no, second semester of freshman year, it was like, okay, let's start. And then sophomore year, it was like, pew. It was like, all right, I'm out here. Yeah. I'm about to see what's up. But like freshman year, it was like I was still breaking away, if it would. So talk to me, if there are any, what do you think is like, to tell the audience and people watching Christian school and not Christian school, the biggest misconception about Christian schooling?
Biggest misconception
that people have about Christian schooling that you feel like it's like, I think mine is like everybody's super saved. that you think everybody is super saved.
Well, there's that. Well, I guess for us, but again, like it was really different for us. Because when you really think, and I don't mean to throw it out this way. When you think about the school that we went to, it was kind of just like we knew differently. And a lot of the kids that we knew outside of it was like, oh yeah, we know y'all. We know how y'all do or whatever.
Right. It's like, oh yeah, we know how y'all is. Yeah. Like, oh, y'all go over there. Like, yeah. And it was like, nah, y'all don't know.
I think the misconception was on behalf of the adults. Because the kids, we already knew it was up. We, you know, a lot of us, we went to church together. We would go to sporting events together. Right. We would do whatever, you know. I think more of the misconception came from the adults. And that's kind of just, as you get older, you start to recognize it. It's like, you know, most of the unhappiness, most of the discontentment, most of the, you know, the friction in situations comes from the adults rather than the kids. We already have that understanding. It's kind of just like, yo, I remember sitting there talking to guys, be like, yo, how is it going to private school? This sucks, but whatever. You know, like, I got to wear a uniform every day, but I see the same people all the time, and I pretty much get to do my own thing. Like, I can't do certain things or whatever, but I don't really want to do it anyways. And they were kind of just like, oh, okay, well, that's not that bad. And then some of them would come to the school and they'd be like, oh, yeah, like, I get what you mean. It's not that bad, but I've been doing this. I don't want to do it no more. And then they would leave. Yeah. You know, like, it wasn't that bad. Right. So, you know, like, the misconception comes a lot from the adult mind, in my opinion. Because as kids, we kind of just dealt with it. It was just like, we really ain't got no choice, whatever.
That's another question I had written down. Oh, would you ever, I know you probably would, but would you ever put I know you are. Would you ever put your children in a Christian school after the experience you had?
No. No, I would not.
In a Christian school?
No.
I thought you was you gonna put?
I would put my plan is to put my children through an academy or private
academy. School, but you wouldn't put the. Yeah, okay, I thought it was a Christian school. Okay, cool, bet.
Yeah, I don't.
Right, yeah, because I don't plan on it.
Yeah.
I'm glad. Okay, cool. Because I thought you were gonna have a different.
The only reason being is because I guess like they get it at home. You know, it's like it'd be different if they weren't going to get it at home.
And I think that's the reason why people send their children to private schools, Christian schools in the first place.
In my free time, I like to play my game and go outside, play soccer and whatnot. But I talk to my son about God on a regular basis. I talk to my son about Jesus. He's 3, and I'm talking to him about Jesus, and in the mornings when he's riding with me to work, when I ride to work in the morning, it doesn't matter what it is. Like I'm getting my day started by talking in the Holy Spirit and just praying, getting ready for the day, because it's something that I've started. I feel more comfortable doing it. I feel led by the Holy Spirit to do it now.
Right.
And I've been doing that for a while. So when we're riding in the mornings, and he's in the back seat, I'll look in the windshield. Windshield. I'll look in the rearview mirror, and he's got his eyes closed and his head bowed, and he's listening as I'm praying. So he's getting this at home. And it's kind of just like, I don't feel like, and then on top of that, like obviously we haven't been able to meet, because of, everything going on right now.
The Rona.
But at the same time, like, we also go to church.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, it's like, he's going to get it. He's going to get it.
Right.
And a lot of it really, like, I notice as a parent, he's learning from me. He's learning from my wife.
Right.
It's my responsibility to teach him about God. It's not my responsibility to drown him,
Speaking to the mic when you say that. Say that again.
But seriously,
say that. It's not your responsibility.
It's my responsibility to teach him. It's not my responsibility to drown him. If he decides that he wants to dive deep, then let it be because he sees me doing it. Not because,
That hit a nerve. I'm sorry, y'all. That.
But to be real about it, that's
Facts.
one thing, like, now it's not to take anything away from my parents. My mama was in her Bible all the time.
Right. Same.
But at the same time, like, I didn't necessarily understand it that way. She wasn't doing it in front of me all the time. She would pray and stuff like that. And I caught a lot of that stuff.
Explain it. Yeah, you just see the emotions. You wouldn't see the thought process behind it. You see the behavior.
And like with so my mom was a great example as far as that's concerned.
Right.
And like, so that it made me want to do a lot of the right things. But at the same time, like, and it's not to take away from it. If I would have asked to join, if I would have asked to do it with her, she never would have turned me away. She probably would have appreciated it.
Right.
But at the same time, like, it wasn't an invitation for me to do it. So, like, as a kid, if you're not going to tell me I got to, I'm not going to.
Right.
And I'm not telling my son that he has to do this, but I share it with him on purpose. I'll do the same with my daughter. And for however many other children I have later on, I do it with my wife. Like, before we got started down the road here, what did we do? We prayed over our trip. And it just it starts at home. It doesn't have anything to do with you being constantly in that environment. When you go home, that is where you at. You are your most relaxed self when you are at home.
Facts.
And if you are receiving Jesus, if you are receiving, if you're understanding grace, if you're being taught about who you are in Christ when you're at home, then when you step outside of your home, guess what? It's going to be there.
And do you think it's like more difficult to, like, because you said it's like it's a different setting, do you think it's more difficult to learn that, like, how everybody thinks that the Christian education, like, you should have a Christian education? Do you think the adverse is the effect that you're not in a relaxed setting, you're in a setting where you're tensed up and things like that in the nature? You
Absolutely.
think that,
Absolutely. That was the life that I lived.
Right.
There was, and I said it, there was more high stress and anxiety to live up to the standard, that went on, or what they wanted us to be. And then on top of that, like, with me being in that school for as long as I was, and, for everybody to kind of know who I am. And then, on top of that, like, with, having some success as far as sports was concerned, like, there would be a picture up there or whatever, people be talking to me about.
Yeah, he was famous, y'all.
there was not famous, chill out. But you know, there was a lot, but there was a lot of pressure,
right?
Because like people would sit there and expect me. They're just like, oh, well, he goes to Victory and he's doing this, he's doing that, he's getting ready. You know, like there was unbelievable pressure.
Yeah,
there was there was like this reputation that followed that they wanted me to live up to, and it was kind of just like, yo, like I didn't ask for this, you know, and it's not that. I thank God for it because it prepared me for where I am now. It prepared me for what He's preparing me to walk into at this moment in time. And we'll talk about it another day. But you know, at the same time, it's kind of just like was it fair for me to have to deal with that? You know, from such a young age? No, absolutely not. And with that being said, you know, I'm not going to put my kids through that. I'm not going to put my wife through that. I'm not going to, you know, force that on anybody else or any children that I come across, you know. It's just, it's not fair to them to put that type of pressure on them. It's not fair to them to put that type of stress and tension on them.
Facts.
To live up to something like that. There's nothing wrong with helping them to set dreams and goals and expectations. Godly dreams and goals and expectations.
Like, not to drown. Like, one, I wouldn't put my child through a Christian school. At first, when I first came into the faith, I think I was gung-ho about that. Like, yeah, Christian education, you know, taken through the same way, but find one that was not like where we came up at, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I think my biggest reason is just because, like, of the doctrine. And, like, going back to grace. If I could find a New Covenant school, maybe. But if I can't, even if I could, I probably still wouldn't. But that would be the game changer. If I could find a school where, like, a Joseph Prince started a school out here, his church started a school out here, they might go to there. But even then, I still think I wouldn't want my child going up through that. Not saying that it's a bad thing. And then if you out there, y'all want to send yours, there's no condemnation towards you or anything like that. But just for, like, me, like, nah, I couldn't. I wouldn't want to do that just because I'm like, I would want their Christianity, their Christian learning to come from me.
Yeah.
I don't trust administrators. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know how they live, and then I don't know how. Okay, you may live this way, but then are you teaching my kid that it's my behavior, not belief? Are you know what I'm saying? Are you putting a law on them? And, you know what I'm saying, do not do this, do not do that, instead of, like, is it a place where there's dialogue about why this is not allowed or something like that, you know what I'm saying? So I think that's really, like, the big thing for me. But, yeah, not drowning them. Like, if they want to go deep,
go.
Like, we knew cats that grew up like that they was deep in it from, like, 10 years old, and they still in it now. But, like, if that's you, then that's you. Then we can go there. But I think that, like, in order for the children to have a fruitful relationship with God as children, I think it's necessary for you to spoon feed. I don't think it's necessary for you to shove and drown or whatever, because you got to be holy. And that, okay, we'll drown you, so at least 75% of you come up back up Christian or whatever like that.
And even look at the fact, you know, like, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. You know, our bodies are 70% water.
I knew he was going, and people die from drowning.
You can drink too much water.
Right.
You know, and so with that, water is essential to life.
Right.
Oxygen is essential to life. You know?
Yeah.
Like, and it's not to take anything away from, but if you get too much of that, if you're surrounding yourself in it at all times, there's nothing wrong with it. But I guess my one perspective, as far as you know, like, putting our kids through that, is when are you actually giving them a chance to understand why they're doing this? If they're going to public school and they're able to see that there are kids who don't have that upbringing, it makes they're okay with standing out. They're just like, I don't want to be like that. I'm okay with not being like that.
Right. And it was taboo growing up too to send your kids to public school.
Yeah,
it was taboo. Like, you remember, like, oh my gosh, like, that's like the devil almost. Not really, but that's what it felt like growing up as the kid, and like wanting to go. It's just like, oh my gosh, no, like, no public school. You know, when it's like, you're not really that bad. You kind of come into more of yourself. through that experience, I would assume, because I kind of came into more of myself as I went to college, but public college. So shifting to, because that was really good. Shifting to, what was the question that I had? Oh yeah, so shifting to this, how do you think your life would, speaking of public schools, how do you think your life would differ if you went to public school versus private school?
Growing up as a church kid still? Or like eliminating all of that?
Dang, that's a good one. Because I'm like, on one hand, I'm like, growing up as a church kid, but then I was just like, what if you just went to church every now and then?
Like if it was just a,
like,
if everything was
your parents were believers, but they weren't involved in the church, and y'all went to church every now and then, and you know what I'm saying, you didn't really get exposed to. Well, no, let's go first. Church kid, but didn't grow up in Christian school. How do you think you would be different?
I think I would have been all right then. I think it would have been a lot different because, again, like that whole not necessarily wanting to be like everybody else,
right.
Not wanting to do all of the stuff that everybody else was doing. I would have still been that way. That was just kind of how I was, anyways. Like even as a young kid, I didn't like getting in trouble.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, I just didn't like getting in trouble.
Right.
Like I didn't understand why people did. I didn't understand why people, why would you want to get talked to like that? Why would you want to get spanked? Why would you want to, I didn't understand that. So for me, it was kind of just like, I wouldn't do it. So I think if I would have grown up still church kid, but not in public school, I think I would have, I think the adjustment would have been a little bit easier. We would have been exposed to more. So when we got to school, like look at what the kids are exposed to these days. Like, so with that being said, we were kind of exposed to the exact same things
except
that were
social
going
media
on in
wasn't
high school.
Prevalent as much, I would say.
Like, well, no, I'm not comparing what they're exposed to what we're exposed to. No, that's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What I'm saying is like, when we were in high school, a lot of the stuff that we did when we got to college was already going on in high school.
Right. Facts.
So we would have already kind of been exposed to it. We would have, been able to kind of pick our side. And that kind of just would have been what it was. Like I didn't, want to mess with anything. I wasn't, up for the smoking or the drinking or anything like that. And it was the reason why I wasn't up for it and why I didn't really want to do it, especially when I was in high school, because I was like, I'm an athlete. Like, I want to make sure I'm in pristine shape, and I feel like it's going to stop me.
Right.
The temptation came when it was kind of just like, well, you don't need to be, drinking. You don't need to be smoking. You don't need to do this. You don't need to do that. And it's kind of just like, why?
There's a scripture like that. Like, this is 1 Corinthians 15:56. The strength of sin is in the law.
And
right,
absolutely. And instead of, so like for me in high school, when I would explain it to other people why I didn't want to do it, it was kind of just like, well, I don't want to because like I'm trying to stay in shape. I don't want anything to mess up my ability to perform at the highest level.
Right.
But then, when I would start hearing all of this, well, you need to make sure that you staying away from this, even though I wasn't even trying to be around it. It was kind of just like, well, look, like I already have my own, thoughts about it, but now you're starting to change my mind.
When I first heard that concept, like my pastor, like came, like first he talked about it in a sense of like a pink elephant. If I say you better not look at that pink elephant, you better not think about the pink elephant, you better not think about a pink elephant, sooner or later, that's the only thing that's going to be on your mind. And it's just like, it's in some way or shape or form, that's how we were raised. And that's, that was the outcome. It's like everything that we're told not to do, people are doing because of the way you enforce it. But if we were told like, hey, yeah, we don't allow that, but this is why, so. Even
that, I feel, and I know I've learned that, people like to know why. If you explain things to people,
people won't want to do it. Yeah, right.
I guess that was kind of one of the, like, sometimes I'll get, so my son will ask questions all the time. You know how it is. Like, he'll ask questions all the time. And, like, or if I tell him something, a lot of the time he just goes, why? And he's not doing it to be disrespectful. He's not doing it to be mean. It'll irritate me sometimes. Like, yo, like,
just listen.
Go.
I am father. I am father.
But I mean, sometimes, well, not even sometimes. Pretty much every time I tell him something, or his mom will tell him something, he says, why? And, you know, especially on those times where it's just like, he does need to understand this, you know. Like,
I like that,
it's got to be explained. And there's nothing wrong with that explanation. And I guess one of the things that we always learned growing up, it was just like,
that's, you know, disruptive.
It's disrespectful, it's disruptive.
Right.
You should just take it, you know, for what's being said. And it's kind of just like, you know, they would apply that to the word of God. But then they would sit there and be like, well, you're not reading your Bible. And it's kind of just like, well, you told me that the only thing I need to do is listen to what you're telling me. You ain't got to explain nothing to me.
Facts.
But then you expect me to go read my Bible? Like,
right.
Well, if you sitting here giving me what I need anyways, instead of like actually setting it up so that I want to go see it for myself, then what's going to happen? Like, either one thing, I'm just going to stop listening to you.
And that'll happen early.
And that's most of the time what happens.
Yeah.
You know, or the other hand, I'm going to hear what you got to say and I'm going to go ahead and go look for it myself. And that doesn't happen most of the time.
Question. If you had to, okay, it's a 2-part question. So first, it was going to be, what would you do? Like, what would you say Christian schools need to improve on? Or what do you wish our Christian school did different? But I want to kind of intertwine that with, if you had to build a Christian school, what would it look like? In terms of how you treated the students, in terms of what was taught, what would that Christian school look like? So, which one you want to answer? Which one you think you answer first? Because the last one, that latter part is kind of the funner one.
Yeah, I mean that's a lot of fun. And I got some suggestions for that one, but
that's, I think, would be helpful.
As far as Christian schools are concerned, and what I think they should do differently, what I wish our school would have done differently is, like I said, I wish that the focus would be on being an authentic person, being okay, realizing that it's okay to be flawed and share those flaws, because the thing is, you know, when we have our role models and we put them on a pedestal, putting them on that pedestal and then realizing that they're flawed, realizing that they have issues, realizing that they weren't the perfect people that we painted them out to be, it disappoints us, and it makes us lose hope. It makes us lose faith. It makes us lose that dream, that goal to be like that person.
Right.
But when we understand that they are flawed individuals, whereas they may not, you know, they may be good people.
Right.
You know, lovers of Christ, you know, absolutely love God with all their heart.
Most def.
But at the same time, maybe they have something that's a monkey on their back, but they're open and they're honest about it.
Right.
You know, like, what about, there might be a kid who's struggling with that.
So you feel like more transparency.
Transparency is what makes the world go round. You know, like, as far as, you know, like peace.
Yeah.
And effective collaboration.
And that's, I think, the reason why maybe that wouldn't have happened, I think in my mind going back, I'm like, wishing that would have happened. But I think the reason why is because they're supposed to be our superiors. So they may feel like, okay, because I'm supposed to be your superior, I can't let you into that side because it will make us look like we're on the same level.
I guess.
And we are on the same level. And that's what I wish, like how you said, like transparency, because transparency puts everybody on the same level.
Yeah.
Like, if you struggled with that growing up and you're busy preaching, no, don't do this, instead of, okay, this is how I got over it.
Yeah.
And I went through this.
I look at it because, I mean, like, you know, for me, I'm a program manager at a nonprofit. So, you know, I'm working with, obviously, people that are my age, maybe a little bit older than me, maybe a little younger than me,
right?
Staff. But then I'm also interacting with kids as well. And, like, one thing that I see is kind of just like you can relate to everyone and you can get along with everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can be your authentic self and people still respect you as a superior. You can, you know, like, you don't have to be this high and mighty individual and, you know, hold yourself to this extremely high standard. And people aren't just going to lose respect for you because of that.
Right.
Like, if you come in and you have, you know, if you come in and you establish who you are, what you're here, what you're about, and people understand that and they know that, and you are yourself from the very, very beginning, then that's all that it is.
And it's kind of hard to repair that after the fact.
Yeah,
They'll look at you weird.
Yeah, because the thing, you know, like, for instance, if you look at it from the standpoint, if you are, I don't know, say you just pop off, like, you go viral one day, and then you know, that's it. You know, you're doing.
I receive it.
Amen.
Amen.
But say you just pop off one day and you go viral, but you're teaching, you know, the person that you're coming off as isn't somebody who's, you know, real, raw, authentic, you know, honest about themselves, the struggles that they have, and you're this person who, you know, tries to, you know, high and mighty and
hide behind the mask.
You know, yeah. If you're that person and all of these people get behind you and they follow you, they listen to you and they start, you know, going your way and doing what you do, and then all of a sudden say
you slip up
heavy, you know, like fall into an old vice or something like that. Well, all of those people, they're gonna sit there and say, "Oh, well, he was this, he was that," you know. And now I don't know what to do, and they're lost because you pointed yourself as to be this high and mighty individual, this holier than thou individual, and
holier than thou. That's key, right?
Like, they got behind you, and now you messed up, and now they're just like, oh, well, he was supposed to be all of this, and he messed up. Well, he's bad, and this is probably bad too. It's not true. It's this, it's that, and I'm like, it's where. Where can you grow from there? At a certain point, it becomes irreparable. You know.
Yeah.
Reputations fall apart because of that. But when you come out and you're honest, you're real, you're raw, you are your authentic self. People respect you more because yes, I love God with all of my heart. I love Jesus. I wake up in the morning and I just go, thank you, Jesus. And it's not because now, like before, you know, I remember we had teachers that would say that. They'd be like, I wake up in the morning and I say, thank you, Jesus.
And we look at them like you weird, like you corny.
Yeah,
you cornball.
But I wake up in the morning now and I say, thank you, Jesus, from a place of humility.
Right.
You know, understanding that, like, I should not take this opportunity for granted. I should not take each day for granted. Right. I should take it as an opportunity to do what it is that God has called me to do, and allow myself to be led by the Spirit, and allow myself to move by the Spirit.
Facts. Yeah, like I think also too, like what I would add, like what I would improve or think that should have been done better, it's just a little bit more like self-expression from just our school, but in general. But then I also think it's like a little individuality when it comes to thought process. Like I've told you before, I'm like, when I see people that grew up with us that aren't necessarily Christian anymore, that go on their own way, but they're thinking for themselves, and I love it.
Yeah,
may not agree with however you believe or however you live your life or whatever like that, and everybody's to each his own. But like, I love the fact that you're thinking for yourself, because there was a time when we weren't able to express how we feel or how we felt was just it's the bottom line. It's like, no, like, it's what God says. And it's not about how you feel or whatever, or how you think about a situation. So I think that is like what I think, you know, more individuality, self-expression, but I think also like being able to think for yourself and have a platform where you're not ostracized if you do think for yourself. If you have a thought and this is how you feel, let it be heard. You may not, you know what I'm saying, not necessarily also from an opinion basis, like, okay, these students are paying X amount of money per year to go here. How can we make the experience? Did we ever have surveys?
No.
about how to improve or whatever, have surveys. I think that would have been cool. Like, okay, what could be done better? Yeah. You know what I'm saying? In terms of like, okay, what could we be doing better? Because if you're paying this per amount of money per year, and nothing changes for the entire 12 years of your existence at all, it's the same thing. It doesn't change until shut up, Andrew. It doesn't change at all. And then, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that's what, like, just being able to have a little bit more self-expression and just being able to think for yourself, like, and not be terrorized or ostracized if you were to think for yourself. I think that was like, those are like big things for me. You kind of said, like, or agree with me when I said self-expression. Oh, yeah. Like, I think like holiness was portrayed in how we wore our hair and how earrings are not earrings and things of that nature. Say it. Speak on it. Because I know you're wanting to express yourself, you know. Because I'm like, I just now dyed my hair. I'm getting a nose ring soon, and I just dyed my hair. I'm about to dye it again like next week. Like that, like having Christian kids like that, and one of the reasons I'm doing it because I want to, but I'm like, imagine seeing on branding from Christian schools children with different color hair and piercings that are Christian. Earrings.
Look,
tattoos.
I just want to know.
Green hair. When I started the whole new church thing last year, people got really mad or whatever because I had a picture of A$AP Rocky on the cover or whatever. But I'm like, I was trying to find a shorty with green hair and like goals in her mouth and talk about holy. Like, this is like holy, like, you know what I'm saying? Put holy on the cover, I mean, of the picture or whatever like that, because that person, their holiness is not by their outside appearance. Their holiness is by their inside appearance. So me putting that on a picture, it would stir up your flesh because you're like law, but it's just like spirit. You want to say so much and you like. Because it's facts. It's facts, ladies and gentlemen. It's facts, bro.
I just want to know what my haircut got to do with Jesus. And that changed a little while after, so I guess that kind of got realized. But that was the biggest question for me.
For everybody.
What is my hair?
My facial hair.
I could kind of understand the uniforms.
Uniforms is private school, okay.
Private school.
So at least was wearing own shoes.
One of the things that I continued to hear was just like, well, one of the reasons why we don't wear uniforms is because people will take it too far, and I agree with that. You know, like at you know, like tighter jeans are more widely accepted now, but back then, you know, it was taboo.
I mean, what about comparison? That's the reason why uniforms is in place in the first place, to get kids from comparing themselves. At least that's what I thought.
That's what
the
purpose. It's supposed to be.
Why is it about tighter jeans or whatever? Why not just enforce no tight jeans?
You would think, but I mean, you know, I think either way, I remember a lot of the things that they would say as far as that was concerned, and I'd be like, all right, I guess I can kind of hear that. You know, we want to eliminate distractions and blah 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 and this and that. But at the same time, it's kind of just like, look, yo, like, we hear all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Don't we deserve to kind of have at least a little bit of freedom?
Mm-hmm.
You're literally going, what is it, 7-8 hour day? Your school, however
7,
long
8
you're
hour
there.
day.
Yeah, like you're there for that long. And then for us, we were going to church.
Mm-hmm. Some of y'all was going Wednesday.
I was going on Wednesday
and would never go home. Wouldn't go home.
Look, this was it. So, man, a quick breakdown of a week for me, a regular week. On Monday, we'll start with Sunday.
Right.
So Sunday morning, you wake up, you go to church, and like before everything, I think before the dome got built, you know, there was a multi-purpose facility. Mm-hmm. There were 3 services. Mm-hmm. So I was there for like at least 2 of them.
I don't remember none of that. But yeah.
No. This was real. This was crazy. So I would be woken up in the morning and I would be at the multi-purpose facility for like 2 or 3 services every Sunday. Then I would go back that evening for Sunday night service. And then after that, I would wake up and go to school the next day.
Right.
Go to school, and if I was playing a sport or something like that, well, no, because I wasn't doing sports. I was too young at that time. So I would go to school, and I would come home, go to school, come home. Wednesday, go to school, go to church.
Mm-hmm.
And then, go to school, blah, blah, blah. Get to Saturday, and I'm probably playing a recreational sport, church league.
Mm-hmm. Church league, shout out.
So on Saturdays, I'm right back up there.
Right.
And then right back into Sunday. As I got older and started playing sports and got involved, with like school and whatnot, then it was wake up, go to school, go to practice, go to church. Wake up, go to school, go to practice, go to church. Wake up, go to... It was literally, it was that way. Then we started having all the little Friday night stuff, the Monday night stuff, all of that, Tuesday night.
Shouted. Locked in, shouted.
Yeah, so we was there. I was there all the time.
Right, yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily a problem for me because the only thing I was doing was wearing basketball shorts or something like that or, whatever.
Right.
But at the same time, like, there were days where I didn't have anything to do. During the summertime when we were like just kind of chilling, I went to the summer camp. Went to the summer camp.
Facts.
There
was there faithfully until middle school.
I'm telling you, man, we were always there. It was one of those things. Is like we never got a break, and it was super, super, super overwhelming. But there were so many limitations on what we could do, what we could say, how we could act. Even now, I think one thing that really bothered me and that I still look at was like the political stuff.
We're not gonna get into that though. We're not
gonna go that route. We're not gonna go that route at all.
Because that'd be a whole nother 45 minutes.
That was something that really kind of shook me.
Facts.
And like I would look at stuff like that and kind of compare it to it. But like, if you disagree with what was said politically,
it's like you're disagreeing with God.
Yeah, like, and I'm kind of like, yo, like, hold up now, because what if I feel convicted to feel this way?
And that's where it comes back to like having like being individuality and individual thoughts, because it's just like everything that you say is not what God says. You're still a human being, and you're still, you know what I'm saying? I think that's a lot of times, like if we could have had rules and regulations that were not dictated by flesh and dictated by spirit.
I felt like a lot of it was arrogance as well.
Right.
Arrogance because, I understand, and I live this life. You don't understand it yet. Because you don't understand it, I'm just going to tell you what to do.
Right.
That was, and then, oh man, to hear arguments along those lines now is kind of just like, yo, are you serious?
Are you ridiculous right now?
What?
Right.
Are you serious? Well, yes, I understand it, and it's this way. You just don't understand it this way. I can share with you. I can teach you. No.
Facts. Mm-hmm.
I could, that just comes off as arrogant. It's very off-putting. It leaves a gross taste in your mouth. Like, you're supposed to be treating these people with love. You're supposed to be treating these people with understanding. And just to kind of go ahead and, I guess, you asked the question, how would I build my own school? Well, that's the first part.
Yeah.
I can't make decisions for them, but I can help them to understand why certain decisions are more important.
Right.
I can't teach you how to love Jesus, but I can tell you how important it is to have a relationship with him. I can't teach you, how to listen to the Holy Spirit, but I can explain it to you why it's important I can explain to you why it's important to allow that sensitivity to come through, to begin to allow yourself to be influenced by the Holy Spirit. I can do that. And the thing is, like, if I go from sitting here just saying, I'm telling you is what you need to do, and talk it at you, versus kind of like making it relevant to you and helping you understand the relevance of it and why it's worth
that's the
it.
Key.
You're going to be more receptive to it. You're not going to be one of those ones who's going to be like, well, I don't really, and even if you are, that's fine. Like, I don't have to push it on you. All I have to do is live my life that way.
Right. And I think like when you saying love, we've had this conversation. But when it comes to people with different sexuality preferences, things of that nature, growing up in an environment where, of course, that would be in a Christian environment that's like frowned upon, but the extremes that were out there, like the extremes of like, okay, you out of the school. I told you this. I'm like, if somebody had homosexual tendencies or was attractive to the same sex in a school and I was there, I'm like, I would have kept them there and would have talked you through that.
At least kind of tried to get the understanding of why you feel that way.
Exactly. You know? And I don't think a lot of Christian schools would do that. I think it's, you got to go out because you're messing up the numbers. It has to look this way when it's just like, it has to look this way when it's just like, I'm sure a lot more people there like had those same feelings. This one just grew up in a household where she's expressive and he is expressive and is not afraid to say how they feel.
Right.
And seeing those people got kicked out. If you said how you felt, that was opposing what we were taught. And they were looked at like bad children, but it's like looking back, no, they were just expressing how they feel. It used to be an environment to express how they feel. Man, I may have not had said it in the most respectful ways, but they were just expressing how they felt, you know? And I think that, like, I think love is a big one. Like, I wouldn't have kicked anybody out that was homosexual or gay. I would have kept them. What's another attribute? Let me see if I could think of another attribute, another moral thing. Definitely would have let you wear your hair however you wanted to wear.
Oh yeah,
earrings.
No, regardless. Now, of course, there are certain limitations. Now, I'm okay with freeform and stuff like that now, but like at that point in time, like I'm not.
As a child, yeah,
like
you would have freeform dreads. Yeah, that would have looked.
It would have been a little bit too much to handle because number one, like well, now a lot of people like it, but I know when we was growing up, like we were quick to set you aflame, like you finna get roasted on sight.
If it wasn't perfect or you had waves or a fade, it wasn't it. Yeah. Couldn't even have fades. You couldn't even have fades, bro. Like you couldn't even have fades, dog. Like, but I think yeah, definitely would be able to wear your hair however you want, wherever. Definitely. Would you have installed or instilled uniforms, or would you kept uniforms out at a Christian school?
Ooh.
And we're creating a Christian school here. If you forgot, so we're creating what we would think would be a good Christian school. Well, not necessarily perfect, but
I think it would be based on the demographic of students.
Okay.
And the thing is, if I were to do that, if I were to have uniforms, you're not about to pay for them. You're not about to pay for those uniforms. That was a dent. So you're not going to pay for them. I'll provide them for you.
Especially if I want you to wear them.
Yeah, I think the thing is, if that were the case, I think I would have left it optional. You can wear a uniform if you would like, or you can wear regular clothes. It's entirely up to you.
But the kids would have still probably worn regular clothes anyway.
Yeah, they probably would have worn regular clothes, but at the same time, I know for me, it was like the uniform was convenient. On the mornings when I didn't feel like, like all I had to do was I knew what I was gonna grab. Like it was nothing. And
the pants was laid out.
Yeah, like we were good to go. So it's right. Like if I'm having a rush morning and I don't really want to think about it, and I'm pretty sure it's a lot of people that would take advantage of the uniform as well. Like if you're given this, you can wear this to school if you want. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure somebody messed around, didn't do laundry or something. Crap. Well, I got a uniform. I throw that on. Mm-hmm. Shoes. Ain't nobody wearing them work shoes. Throw some tennis shoes, man. That's enough. We look like we was working in a factory.
Bruh. You said them work shoes, shouty. For real. Bruh, for real, dog. Like.
The beer stags.
I don't even remember what them brands was called. And everybody had different brands. Like, I know I had Stacey Adams at one point in time. I had, all these other brands. Another characteristic. If you could think of it, what would be another characteristic?
Oh, well, we already said the
authenticity. Authenticity.
The transparency. Would you still keep the discipline?
Heck no. Heck no. And oh God. Cause literally when I tell people that, yo, like, it's like there was like they used to spank. I never got spanked because I never got in trouble, but I only got spanked like maybe once in my life, and that was 4th grade when everybody got in trouble.
What a fun year!
Yeah. Oh my God. Wherever Worth Smith at, shout out Worth Smith.
Hey.
Wherever Worth at, I know. Hey, wherever Worth Smith at, shout out Worth Smith. Trent, if he watches, shout out Worth Smith. Tell Worth Smith I said what's up. Nah. I would not keep the discipline. Like when I tell people that, people get shocked. They get shocked. They look at you like, what? Y'all got beat? I would not let somebody else that's not my mama beat me or whatever. And we agree. But no, I wouldn't. How I would have handled, because then it's just like, okay, so how would you have handled the situation when somebody gets in trouble or does something? You know, I think I would keep in-school suspension.
Absolutely.
I think I would take away privileges at the school. Like if they were on sports teams and things of that nature, I would take away privileges. I think I would get parents involved.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was what we lacked. I think our parents did not get involved because because there were the spankings there or whatever, and that was doing their job for them or whatever. But I think if the parents were to get those calls during the day.
Oh yeah.
Like,
we had a couple of students who messed around and their parents got that call during the middle of the day and they came in.
Yeah.
They straightened stuff out.
That's what I'm saying. So I think that would have been a better solution. Like middle of the day, you call the parent comes through and lays down the law and says no, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and disciplines a child, you know what I'm saying? Have a talk with the principal, disciplines a child in the middle of the day. I think that has more effect because your parents get pulled out of work. They on their lunch break, especially you got parents that work hourly jobs and they got to get this call to come get their son, or not come get their son, but mandatory meeting, like your son just got in trouble, did this, we need you here as soon as possible or whatever. He's going to be held in the office till you get there, or she's going to be held in the office till you get there. I think that would have more repercussions for them at home because you mess up with the parents' money.
No, so on top of that, what about hitting? I've always believed that if you hit somebody's pockets, that's the thing. So, you know, not to sit there and nitpick and whatnot, but I mean.
Ooh, so you would institute fines?
Oh, yeah, in a heartbeat.
Ooh, that's interesting.
Because, I mean, the thing, I don't want to nitpick, but at the same time, it's kind of just like...
Yeah, like if we were... Yeah.
You got to encourage her. And that's that, just like you said, like a lot of the parents kind of, they felt like their job was done, you know, by this, by that.
Right.
Because, you know, like some of... Now, I know a lot of people, you mess around, get a pink slip, you got your 3 at the school, and you messed around and called it for real when you got to the house.
Right.
But then for others, it was kind of just like, all right, well, did you learn your lesson?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
All right, them teachers don't know no way or something like that. Yeah. That was another side of it, right.
To it, if you know, something like chewing gum or something like that, if you're sitting here chewing gum and, you know, all right, well, I tell you what, I keep trying to tell you not to do it, it's going to be $1. $1 fine, $2 fine, something like that. You know, it might. I mean, and
I think that's interesting
because your parent at that point is just like, look, man, I'm not about to keep paying all this extra fines, so you better quit with this. And
that's
like,
good. I never thought about that. I never thought, because it's just I always am like, okay, well, just suspend them or whatever. But it's like, no, what if you hit their pockets?
What? I didn't want to be in school anyway, so suspend me. Suspend me. You know, I got a 3-day suspension. It was like, this is what's up. Like I'm dead serious. Like, you know, like I didn't have to. Like the thing was, like, I am not allowed to go to school. Yeah. You know, like. Yeah. I'm going to stay home. My parents had to go to work. Yeah. Hey mom, hey dad. My parents had to go to work. Right. You know, and you know, with that being said, and of course, like I was gonna be respectful. I wasn't gonna do anything off the wall or anything like that. But hey, guess what? I'm at the crib. I'm about to play the game. I'm gonna do whatever, like, you know, whatever it is. I literally get to stay at home, even if I can't do certain things, I'm in the comfort of my own home. Right. Send me home. I don't care. I don't want to be at school anyways.
Right.
So I always kind of felt like suspension was really like just dumb unless it meant something. Like if I was gonna miss a sporting event or something like that, or my coach was gonna punish me or something like that.
Yeah,
of course.
So I think that's an interesting perspective. Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like doing that. Man, this conversation was insightful, bro.
I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it too. We need to do a part 2 on this. I don't know what else we would talk about. There's plenty to talk about. Yeah, we named one of the ones
going to college, politics.
Politics.
Life.
Yeah, college life. Yeah. So we should do a part 2 of this when we get the opportunity, next couple of weeks or whatever. Whenever your schedule is clear, we should do a part 2.
Just let me know.
All right, y'all see a part 2. I appreciate you coming on here, bro.
Of course.
I hope y'all were blessed by the transparency, and in no way, disclaimer, in no way was we throwing smoke at our former school. One thing people have to realize is that we went there, so we still have an opinion about things, and our opinion is valid. You know, people, you might watching this, you may not agree with our opinion and don't think we should be sharing certain things, but we're entitled to our opinion because we went there, you know, and you can't take that away from us. So if you have a problem with this video, I'm sorry, or this podcast, I'm sorry, but we have an opinion. We went there and we deserve to be able to talk about it. For so long, it's like taboo, like don't talk about how you grew up. Don't talk about it or whatever, because you put the place in a bad light. But it's just like, if it gets put in a bad light, that's not our fight. That's not our objective. At the end of the day, that's not the objective, to put something in a bad light, put this school in a bad light. The objective was to talk about experience and hope that people 5 years from now would watch this video when they type in YouTube Christian schooling, and they would hear about experiences from some kids in the mind from a kid that went to a Christian school. So that was my whole hope with doing this video. It wasn't to throw shade. It wasn't to have backlash or whatever. It was to talk about the real experience. And if you got a problem with it, ain't my problem. So I appreciate you for coming on, bro. You don't do social media like that, so I'm not even going to shout out no social media for you. I'm going to shout out my social media. You know what I'm saying? Drew Mouzon, at Drew Mouzon. Y'all know everything like that. It's down in the description. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, all the good stuff. Rate this podcast if you're listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe and rate. And if you're watching this, I thank you for watching this on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram. And until next time, there will be a part 2. So until next time, this is Jonathan Bridges. My name is Drew Mouzon. Until next time, peace.